to have you here, Sean. Let's just have you introduce yourself to the people, to the audience.
Sure. Sure. Hey, I'm Sean Sotero. I'm a reporter for Complex, and I guess most germanely to this discussion, I covered the Sean Combs trial.
Absolutely, yes. And you also covered the 6ix9ine trial. I mean, I guess
Yes. Yeah,
Treyway
we'll
or
get into that. But yeah, I covered the 6ix9ine trial, which is where I met our illustrious host here. Wrote a book about that called Dummy Boy, and also did a podcast about that. Reported a podcast about that called Infamous.
absolutely. Now to the man of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
If you could be so kind to just, I had some questions regarding that case, the Treyway
Mm-hmm.
case. If you could be so kind just to address some things.
Sure, of
Um,
course.
Recently, Mel Matrix got released from federal prison.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that, and what can you tell me?
So yeah, so Mel, as we saw, is out. As far as I can tell, and as far as the Bureau of Prisons confirmed with me, he's in a sort of uh, halfway house type thing. I don't
Mhm.
know the exact details. The last I heard was it was sort of his. He was listed as being at sort of a clearinghouse for halfway houses, so I don't know which exact one he's at, or if he has lives there or just has to check in there. I don't know the exact details, but he's sort of still in Bureau of Prisons custody for about another 2 years, I think, until around 2027. But he is, as we saw on Jim Jones's socials, out in the world and no longer in federal prison.
Right. Because our the rainbow-headed kid had some words to about his release. Because initially Mel Matrix was sentenced to you would know better off the
Yeah, it
top
was
of
like
your
10 or 11 years, something like that. It was, I
yeah.
forget the exact number of months, but yeah, it was a significant sentence. And, Takashi, I think, was sort of playing on people's confusion and the fact that they wouldn't know how the federal prison system works, and why would they? But, Mel didn't do anything special to, he didn't do
Cooperate.
anything or tell on anyone to get out early, right? And in the federal prison system, there's no parole, but you serve 85% of your time uh with various it's a little complicated, but basically it works out to you
Right.
serve about 85% of your sentence. uh he served a significant amount of time between when he was arrested and when he was incarcerated. He's obviously
Right.
serving the last 2 years in a kind of like halfway house situation. And so when you put all that together, I think it pretty much equals out to his what he was sentenced to.
Right. Now, if anybody who would know these things, it would be you. I know you
Mhm.
covered this
I
tremendously.
covered it
This is
exhaustively. Yeah, it was
yeah.
my
This
life
was your
for a
life. This
couple
was
of
your
years.
life.
It was.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Takashi, much like he did with Jim Jones, is taking someone who he views as an enemy and sort of playing on confusion and people not knowing the details to imply bad stuff about them that isn't true. This was also the case with Jim Jones, where it's like, oh, Jim Jones is a snitch, that's why he wasn't arrested. And like, look, I don't know why investigators made all the choices they did, but I do know that everyone in that case, did bad stuff, and there was a lot of evidence of them doing bad stuff. And the only connection Jim Jones had was basically being on the receiving end of a phone call where he was asked for advice. That is far, far less than any of the whatever he said on that phone call or suggested on that phone call, none of which came to pass. Uh, it was far, far less than anyone else in that case. So it makes perfect sense that he wasn't sort of tied up in that as another defendant. But again, Takashi used this confusion and this idea of like, oh, his name was mentioned and you heard his voice, to sort of cast aspersions of like, you
Right.
know, that aren't true as far as I know.
Right. So, in other words, just to be clear, to your knowledge, Jim Jones or Mel Matrix did not cooperate with the federal government regarding this case or any
Right.
other case.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
To your
Absolutely.
knowledge. Okay. Great. Great to clear that up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
Oh,
yeah,
by
let's
the way, sorry,
go ahead.
before we get into Diddy, Takashi's in trouble again. You saw this, I'm
Right.
sure. The details are a little murky right now, but basically, he is in the middle of, being in trouble for violating the terms of his supervised release. Even though he's out of prison and has been out of prison for a while, he's still under state custody, right? He's under what they call supervised release. He basically has to obey a bunch of rules for a handful of years,
Hmm.
and he keeps sort of breaking these rules. And earlier this year, he was caught with drugs in his house, right? And so that led to a whole thing of, look, you violated these rules. There's going to be some consequences. And about 10 days from now, he was scheduled to get sentenced for those consequences. And, you know, we don't know if it was going to be a little bit of prison time or, just a longer supervised release period or what the deal was. But while we're waiting for that to happen, a notice came down that said, well, look, he broke some more rules. So he's going to be sort of arraigned on breaking those rules on the same day at which he was supposed to be sentenced for breaking the first set of rules. So, like,
Yeah.
just as this was about to wrap up, there's some new broken rules that he's going to have to sort of start the process of uh, paying the penalty for. And particularly Judge Engelmeyer, who, AG, I'm sure you remember,
Yeah.
right? He said, and you were there, I think. He
Shout out
said,
to Dogecoin.
what's that?
I was gonna say shout out to Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Engelmeyer said, and I think you were there to hear this, I remember right.
Mm.
Look, you better. He said to Takashi, basically, you better straighten up and fly right. Like, I may cut you a break on this drug stuff, but like, there are going to be serious consequences if you mess up again. And it certainly appears that he messed up again. So, I mean, that all has to sort of play itself out, litigate itself out. But, and right now I believe it's just an accusation that he broke some more rules. But, I don't think that Paul's going to be very happy about this.
Yeah, just looking back on it, Paul Engelmeyer definitely seems fed up. Just hearing him out in the last couple of the court days, really with Takashi's shit. You know,
Yeah, I mean, he's
yeah,
seen this guy since, what is it, 2018, 2019, right? What
yeah,
was it, late 2018 when he was arrested?
yeah.
Engelmeyer, I don't think was there for the arraignment, but he's been there every hearing since. So he's seen this guy, he's seen all the pleas of, I'm going to do better, I'm going to straighten up and fly right, I'm here for the kids, I'm turning over a
Hmm.
new leaf, all that stuff.
Yeah.
um all the stuff about, like, I need to get out of prison early because I have asthma, I'm more susceptible to COVID, and all this kind of thing, that all of the various pleas over the years. And yeah, maybe he'll run out of patience. I guess we'll see what happens. As we're talking, they're going to meet in about 10 days.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I think I guess it's a safe bet to say that he will do some prison time, but the question is how long? No, what do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, look, impossible to say with certainty till it happens. But yeah, look, if I
Right.
had to guess by Engelmeyer's attitude, the last time I saw him talking to Danny, it seems certainly like some prison time is in the offing.
Right. Yeah, it's been last thing, and we'll get to Diddy. There's so much
Yeah.
times that passed since his sentencing back in 2019 before the pandemic, and it really thought like, okay, he cooperated, he was going to do some time, he was going to get released, and that was it. He's just going to go on his merry way. He's going to go continue his career, probably be bigger than ever, and that that's it. Like, no more getting in trouble. You probably won't see him in a courtroom again if you can help it. And I would forget, okay, he still have this kind of restriction is over
Hmm.
him. And that now that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a big part of the criminal justice system, is this sort of post-release uh parole and probation. And there's a ton of rules, actually. I wrote about this with regards to Young Thug, right? After
Mm,
he had his verdict, right? he is subject to some very strict conditions, uh, including, where he can live, who he can associate with, all of this kind of stuff. Like, in a lot of cases, these conditions are sort of made to be tripped up and then punished further. Like, it's not a great system. This kind of like release, and it varies. Some rules are different state to state, and federal rules are different, and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, the restrictions on release can be very, very difficult, and can very easily trip you up.
Right. All right, let's get into this Diddy thing. Let's